and welcome to the Turtle Tracks podcast. I'm your host, Brian Van Hooker, and today with me is the original voice of Leonardo, Mr. Cam Clarke.
Isn't he dead? He's so old. You sure?
Not at all. How are you doing today, Cam?
I am well. Been gardening this morning, and then I'm going to go for a hike. And that's about the extent of my day during lockdown in California.
Yeah, a lot of people are doing that now. Just a whole lot of nothing. So
Yeah.
Same here. I guess we'll start at the beginning if that's all right with you. I'm curious how you caught the
A very good place to start. A little sounding music. Come on, work with me.
I'm sorry. I need a refresher on Sound of Music, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
So how did you get started in acting or performing?
Well, I come from a family of entertainers. My father was an actor. My mother was a very famous singer. And in the 1960s, she had a singing group with her sisters called the King Sisters. And in the early 60s, the King Sisters were asked to do a benefit, a benefit for something. And my Aunt Yvonne thought it would be a wacky idea, kooky idea, if we put the kids in the show. And she happened to, for whatever reason, because obviously she had this idea. So she had it filmed, like just with a dumb, back in the day, Super 8, if you've ever heard of that archaic expression.
Mm-hmm.
Liar.
I have. There was...
Anyway, she had this thing filmed in just, dumb black and white. And she took it to a friend of hers at ABC and showed them this raw footage. And he said, how soon can we get a pilot made? So my family, we had a series on ABC a couple of times, and we did all kinds of holiday specials, Christmas with the King family, blah, blah, blah. And so I've always been in the business. And in fact, I have a couple of episodes where I do voice. I'm 7 years old, and they have me do Alfred Hitchcock.
Wow.
And because I guess they'd heard me do it. And also did Jimmy Durante.
Wow.
And I do it on the show at 7 years old. And so I started doing voices way back then. And
anyway, range for 7.
Yeah, right? And so then one thing led to another. When I grew up, I left the biz, left the country. I was living in South America for a couple of years. And when I came back, I couldn't get arrested as an actor. Nobody would have the time. I had this great agent, and he said, "Oh yeah, when you come back, no problem." Well, typical Hollywood story. It was like he wouldn't even return a phone call.
Jeez.
So I went to art school. I went to Otis Parsons Design.
Okay.
Parsons is there in New York, the original, because I wanted to be an illustrator of children's books. And then my brother was working as an associate producer at Warner Brothers. And while I was in school, he said, "Hey, Kim, there's a spinoff. Dukes of Hazzard had a spinoff called Enos. One of the characters from that. Anyway, it was a short-lived show, but he needed people to do voiceovers for it. And so that's where I started. And, met a lot of people that way, and then met this one couple on, I couldn't even tell you what movie it was, but doing background voices. And the woman, whose name is Linda Gary, who was like everywhere in cartoon land in the 70s. She was it. She was the gal. It was June Foray, and then comes, Linda Gary. And she said, "Have you ever thought of doing this for for real, for like a living?" And I kind of went, "Thanks so much, but I'm going to be a movie star." And she went, "Yeah, okay. Well, in the meantime." So she set me up with her agent and a coach because I tried everything. I tried modeling. I tried live theater. Like I told you, I tried to get a TV rep. Anyway, no bites, no bites. But the voiceover thing just really took off from the beginning, right from the beginning.
So from the background voices, what does that entail? What was involved in that?
There's a thing. There's a thing called looping. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. In so that your listeners know, in movies and television, when you're watching a show, say your actors are in a bar and the TV's on in the background and there's a football game, that's all laid in after the fact. The sports announcers and stuff. Or we do fight grunts and death rattles. We do sex scenes where we kiss our hands and then, do the moaning and groaning. We do, the police radio, 1 out of 40. We have your suspect on Route 9. Please advise. And will Dr. Jones please pick up a white courtesy phone? Dr. Jones, white courtesy phone. All that stuff is laid in after the fact, whether it's a football game or a high school locker room or, wherever, kindergarten or astronauts on Saturn. It's all this stuff is laid in after the fact.
So those fight grunts, I'm guessing, came in handy later in the Turtles.
Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so when you get started in voice work after that, then what was the first cartoon role and how did that lead to Turtles?
Well, I don't know that it led to Turtles. I mean, okay. A lot of these things you were lucky. Hold on, I'm gonna have a sip of water. I talk to the boys about this often and some of the other people that I've worked with, but mainly Turtles. I go, what if I was sick that day?
Yeah.
So much is, that fragile in everybody's lives. But that I could have not been it just by virtue of not auditioning. But I started doing, through this looping group, I met a lady and I started doing Mexican soap operas.
Okay.
Dubbing them to English. And through that, you meet a guy and you meet a gal who knows a guy and knows a gal. And then I started doing dubbing for anime. Of course, it wasn't called that. I don't know what we called it.
Sure.
And it was really the bastard stepchild. It didn't have the cachet that it, has now. It was just stuff that, ran in syndication if you're lucky and paid really crappy. But I worked on a show called Robotech, which has a little bit of a cult following in the anime world. But I think my first regular animation job, where the voices go first, unlike anime, was a thing called Dino Riders.
Oh, sure. I know Dino Riders.
Liar.
I've heard of it. I'm only lying slightly. I don't know the characters, but I've heard of it.
Yeah. And so you meet this director and that one, and, you start just auditioning and, you throw it up against the wall and see what sticks. Do you know who, I presume you know who Michael Bell is?
Remind me.
You waited too long. He was a big, and he's, of course, I say was, he's very much alive, but he, like Linda Gary, was really big in the 70s and like 80s.
Okay.
And when I met my agent, she poked her head in the room after I did my first little audition. And she said, sounds like a young Michael Bell. I like that. And then shut the door. I studied with a cartoon coach and met Jimmy Cummings. We were both in the same beginners animation class.
Oh, very cool.
And Rob Paulson was already full into the game. And I met Townie actually before we did cartoons, when he first moved out from Cleveland. Is he from Cleveland, I think? Somewhere in the Midwest.
Yeah.
We met as contestants on a game show, Super Password.
Oh, wow. So there's an episode of Super Password with both of you on it?
Not in the same episode, but in the same, we were in the pool together. We were in the talent, where you audition and they choose, a chunk of folks, maybe 15 people or whatever. And like you're in a jury box, you just hang out in this green room waiting for your number to be called. So wouldn't that have been wild if we had been against each other? But we were in this, like I said, in the same little herd, and we hit it off, and we stayed in contact and hung out. And then I saw him in audition. I went, "What the hell are you doing here? What are you doing here?" So
that's awesome. And you were, correct me if I'm wrong, you are related to Pat Fraley, correct?
He is a second cousin, 9 times removed, or a fourth and a half cousin. We both come from Mormon background, and we have polygamy. Polygamy is our connection. I think we have the same great granddaddy, but different, different wives. But sure. we share that.
Oh, cool. So did you know him when you were young, or no? Just
no.
Later.
He was part of the Arizona family, and I honestly don't know. Don't any of you tell him this. I don't know if we met as kids or if when we started working together, he said, "Hey, by the way, I'm your cousin," because we all lived in California. The family name was Driggs, is the family name, Driggs, and his branch lived in Arizona, and ours was in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was that. Sorry, my phone is just exploding. Let me turn this to, we have Corona battles going on with who believes what. And I'm like, stop already.
That's upsetting. So what do you remember about, the first call for Turtles, anything like that? What do you, what stands out to you still?
Nothing.
Okay. That's fine.
It was just another audition,
Sure.
Auditioned for a zillion shows, and that was one of them. And I, got a call back like I did on some and not on others. So, before a project is done, exists, you don't really get jazzed. Sure. It's like, or you'll work on a revival title. Like I was cast as a Poindexter in a reboot of Felix the Cat, which is a show that I grew up on. And I was really excited. It lasted 2 seasons.
Huh.
And I did a show called Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, which is also was a huge cult, sci-fi movie. And I got cast in that. And I was like, woohoo, a known title. But that doesn't guarantee anything either. So I just came to just go, whatever, just tell me if I booked it and where to show up.
Sure. I heard that early on that they kind of swapped you guys around just to see who works in what voice. Is that correct?
Except they didn't swap around. They were supposed to.
Oh, okay. They
didn't know in the session. They knew who Rob was going to be and who Barry was going to be, but they hadn't decided which, between Townie and me, who was going to be Leo and who was going to be Mikey. Of course, we weren't called Leo and Mikey in those days.
Sure.
And so they pretty much flipped a coin, literally, and just went, oh, boom, okay, heads or tails, whatever. Oh, okay, Cam, you start as Leo. Townie, you start as Michelangelo. And then at the break, after the first table read, um, they were, and I think we both, or maybe I did, said, because I really wanted to be Michelangelo.
Oh, really?
Well, sure, he's the star. He's the, goofball. And I said, hey, we gonna switch back? Are we gonna, not switch back, but, are we gonna, switch, flop, whatever? And they went, no, just that's good. That's working. Okay, let's get back. I'm going to rehearse again. And that was the end of it. And I was so jealous.
Did you have your Surfer Mikey voice ready to go?
Of course I did. I was chosen to be, it was him and I they heard our voices as switchable. So yeah, my Michelangelo is like this. So
Wow.
mine is, it's a little more Keanu Reeves because Tony has, and I can't imitate him. He's got a bassy voice.
Yeah.
So his surfer is a little more moondoggy. And mine's, more like this. However, I was able to use this voice on 2 shows. One on Denver the Last Dinosaur. Do you remember that show?
No, I'm not going to lie.
Okay, I played a character named Mario, and he was a surf dude. And then also on Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, I played Igor, who was this big blonde surfer dude. He kind of looked like Bam Bam when they did when Pebbles and Bam Bam grew up and became teenagers in a rock and roll band.
Oh, yeah.
So he was just this big blonde doofy guy, who talked like this, who did the surfer thing. So, and because I'm a Valley boy, I know that voice before any of the rest of the country did. I remember in high school going, what the hell is that sound? What's all that lackjaw stuff? This was in the mid 70s going, why is that girl talking like this? Where did all those H's come from? And there was this one girl, and I remember we would tease and I would mimic her. She taught, excuse me, Mr. Bass, is our test going to be on Friday? And I'm like, what the hell is that? But we called it surf because I went to a surf school, we lived, a minute from the beach, and that sound was born. I was there. I was there at the beginning of Valley talk, of surf talk.
I'm guessing too. Townsend's voice on the Tick might have been informed that what his Leonardo might have been.
Yeah, I would venture to say that it's a little bassy for a quote teenager. So it.
Oh, true.
He just would have, lightened it up a little bit.
Sure.
But yeah, it was straighter, and that was the hardest part for me. It was that Leo was just the straight guy, pardon the pun, and everybody else got all the silly lines, and I just had to go, we got to think of something fast in every episode.
Was that tough throughout the episode? Like, because everybody else gets all the good lines, arguably. Like, was that tough throughout the series just to have all the straight lines?
Totally. And in fact, I got called into the principal's office, like, Cam, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm kind of, everybody's so out there. I'm just going to make him like, I was trying to make him more like the Tick, a teenage Tick, because I was making him kind of superhero. And they go, no, don't. And the director, Sue Blue, just went, don't fight me on this. But you will hear, if you listen to the original episodes, I kind of just do it like this. He's kind of just right about here, maybe a little vocal fry, a little, little Michael J. Fox thing, which I used to do a lot.
Sure.
And then he kind of ended up being here. So he's still got this kind of more cartoony voice, whereas in the first episodes, he kind of just talked like this.
Oh, true. It's so funny. You don't realize it when you're watching them, because I'm sure it evolved gradually. But you don't. It's funny that it changed.
Well, and I didn't even know I'd slipped into it unless you listen. Did you ever watch Will and Grace?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The rich girl, Grace's friend, who talked in that really high teeny voice. if you watch the first episode, she just used her regular voice, and somehow, I don't know if it was a director's note, but all of a sudden she's talking like this, honey. You see, honey? And she's got this whiny voice. Whereas when the show started, she was just using her voice.
Sure. I mean, I imagine that's often true where they get more and more cartoony as the series goes on. That happened to Seinfeld and a bunch of other things.
I just wanted to be like the other guys.
There's a few episodes, though, where I think you got to be a little bit more like, and I don't remember which episode this was, but there was one episode where Leonardo got to, strangely enough, had like a snake phobia. And like, you got to be kind of whiny and afraid the whole episode. And I remember like,
oh, I love it.
Maybe once in a while you got a chance to slip into it, but usually Leo.
Well, there was one little episode, or maybe it was two, where he says, "I'm over it," and he's like, "I am done trying to pull you guys together." He goes, "You guys take over. You guys get to be the leader. I'm done." And in this episode, or 2 episodes, whatever it was, I got to eat pizza. And I got to just hang around the lair and all that stuff. And that was probably my funnest, because it was, me getting to be something more than the straight man. But after a while, you put your ego aside and just go, okay, Leo is just like this. And he says, come on, guys, April, it's Leo. Shredder and Krang are on their way. I didn't get to say with pepperoni pizza, or, well, your dual Hanks is Jix, Leonardo. It's so whatever. I'm so grateful to be a part of it, and don't read into this that,
oh no,
my life was horrible for having to be Leonardo.
I'm curious, what informs that kind of straight guy, boring voice? Like, what goes into that? Like, I know what went into the surfer guy voice, but like, what informs that?
Informs it? You mean how did I choose the straight
what did you base it on?
Voice?
Yeah.
What?
Like, what did you base it on, or how did you choose that?
I wish, Townie, who has collected everything, he's such a pack rat. He has every script we ever shot.
Wow.
I don't know if he has the original auditions where it would have had, a picture and a little description of who it's supposed to be. But I had a little in my hip pocket. I had celebrities that I used as my jumping off point.
Okay.
And as I said, who's kind of a hip teenage yet leader kind of somebody? And I went Michael J. Fox.
Oh yeah.
So I would say that the germ of Leonardo, because he talks like this, it kind of sounds like Alex Keaton,
Sure. Yeah, I see it.
And my go-tos were Michael J. Fox, Simba, Matthew Broderick.
Oh, okay. And you played Simba a bunch of times.
Which I do a scary impersonation of him. Cool. And John Travolta, Sylvester Stallone. Those were kind of the go-to guys for me. They were huge then. Sure. And they represented pretty much the arc of, young male leads. Not that Travolta was anywhere near, Stallone was in my voice box, but that attitude, that Yo Vinny thing, I was able to employ. Oh. And I also would use Gene Wilder.
Oh, very cool.
Which was my inspiration for Freddy the Ferret in Barnyard, which was my favorite character I ever did.
Really? Why is that?
Because it was the zaniest, goofiest thing, and just such a signature sound that I made. And it's like sometimes you will, at auditions, you have these voices that you have created, and you keep auditioning with them in the hopes that somebody's going to say, that's the sound we want for this character. And Barnyard is when that voice clicked. Because he talked like this. And Gene Wilder, when he'd get upset, he'd have the, when he'd be using Willy Wonka,
yeah, for sure.
He'd do this kind of a thing. And when his voice got loud, or in The Producers, or
The Blue Blanket, yeah.
Yeah. Blue Blanket, exactly.
Yes, that's exactly
Very
the one.
good reference. That's probably lost on 99% of everybody, but
I'm okay with
perfect. But so I would use this voice on a number of characters, and I put a little slight New York thing, and he had a lisp, and he's kind of just a lighter version of Rocksteady, who was down here and had a lisp.
So wait, that was another question I had for you. Where did Rocksteady's voice come from? This isn't Gene Wilder, is he?
No, he's a rhino and he's a big baby. They want him to sound dumb. So I went, okay, he's in preschool. And he's a rhino, so that's why he talks like this, because his voice is low, but I gave him a lisp and this kind of very metered talk because he was just a big kid.
How did you end up becoming Rocksteady? Was that like a plan from the start? You guys were all going to double up?
No, it was kind of just tossed out into the room, just as willy-nilly as me staying with Leonardo. It was, I don't know what went on behind the glass, but I remember the director going, okay, Barry and Cam, why don't you take these two? I don't even know. Maybe the other guys know. Don't even know if they were like a bit part that got, as often is in entertainment, someone comes in for a tiny thing and they go, this is killing it. And so they write that actor or that character deeper into the show. I don't know. Were they in the comic books from the beginning? I don't know.
No, they weren't. They started with the cartoon.
Okay, so maybe they were a one-off and they liked it. I should ask Kevin that. That's a good question.
I'm also curious too. Like I know that like as a kid when I was watching the show, like I just thought Rocksteady was just a dumb villain. But when I'm going back now, like revisiting the show, I kind of feel bad for Bebop and Rocksteady. They just seem like these sort of hapless guys with a bad job. I'm curious.
Very misunderstood.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. Like, how bad do you think he is?
He's just a big stupid. I think if he ever, aimed one of his what did he used to fight with?
He had a gun a lot of the time.
Okay, I think if he ever hit his target, he'd burst into tears and thinking it was really a pop gun. And you didn't tell me I was going to really hurt somebody. I would just, wait, I kind of slipped into Freddy there. But, I never thought that deep into him.
Sure.
The doofy, the guy who gets the pie in the face, the
sure.
easily foiled, thugs.
The funny thing is that he and Bebop seem to have this sort of sweet, supportive relationship for supervillains. It's so strange.
I think maybe they were lovers.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Don't tell anybody. But it's kind of like Bert and Ernie. Nobody really knows.
Sure. That makes perfect sense. There's nothing else there. Let me see what I wanted to ask you. I'm curious about some of the other cast members there. What was Peter Renaday like? He's somebody who I haven't spoke to a lot. Was he actually a bit older than you guys?
Yes. And he is, if you've seen any of our posts, guys have come over to my house and we've sung a little bit, and Pete's been there. Pete is one of the sweetest men I've ever met. And if I didn't mean that, I would just say next, because I'm not one of the guys who's going to go, oh, what a fabulous person he was. He and I actually likewise met way before Turtles. We were in a production, a play of Hound of the Baskervilles, Sherlock Holmes. We performed it above a bowling alley. So here we're doing this, really, very intense British, whodunit with Sherlock and all of that. And you hear, strike, woohoo, yeah! You just hear all the pins in the background. And so we both get a good chuckle about that. Was he Sherlock? You'd have to ask Pete.
Who are you?
I was Lord Baskerville.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Yes, I was probably 22 or 3, something like that. And I was just the lord of the manor.
What was it like behind the scenes? Because I'm curious what a recording session was like. I mean, you back in those days, you guys were all there, right? You were all in the room together.
Yeah. It was all like like radio shows. You know, we
Sure.
were all there, 10 chairs, whatever. Everybody on their own mic, and yeah, it was goofy. It was fun. Sometimes it was tedious. Mainly, it was just being in a big sandbox with a bunch of big kids, and when you're together for that long, the show, you pretty much get it down, in your sleep.
Sure.
So we would, couple seasons in, maybe, we'd do a quick read through and then record it. Sometimes the lines were, improv lines that a character would throw in there, and they'd say, "Oh, keep that." But most of the time, we stuck pretty much to script.
I'm hoping you didn't have to be the voice of reason behind the scenes too.
Voice? Oh no, actually, I sat there. I'm not a real tap dancer, believe it or not, and I'm not much of a circus clown. And some of the guys really are into the silly part, and I'm kind of just like, let's do the job, and let's do why we're here. So I wasn't the leader, but I also wasn't the biggest clown. I left that to Rob and Pat.
Oh, cool.
To be the main court jesters.
Do you remember any of the little ancillary characters you played, like Pinky McFingers or any of those, or those kind of fade into the...
Is that somebody I played, Pinky McFingers?
There's a whole bunch of host of dumb characters you played in that show. He was one of the ones that I was like, maybe, because you probably played him 2 or 3 times, but I'm just curious.
What was he? What was he?
He was one of their gangster knockoff characters. He probably appeared in, maybe 2 or 3 episodes at most. Probably
can't help you there.
That's fine. I'm curious. When you returned to the role, not that many, probably 4 years ago now, give or take, for the 2012 series for the crossover episodes. I'm curious what that was like. Like, did you have to refer to old episodes or get back in it, or Leo just fit like an old glove?
Oh yeah, I mean, also having done conventions and stuff. I mean, he's never left me. Unfortunately, my voice is not much different than the day I started. I've been blessed with, I don't smoke, I don't drink, don't smoke, you don't drink. What do you do? So my voice hasn't dropped much. I don't have some of the highs because in my early days, I would be up against a lot of the girls for little characters, little guys that talk like this. And I can't get as high as I used to. But E.G. Daly, Debbie Derryberry, Tara Strong, I go to callback and it's me and a bunch of girls because it's, for the little rabbit or, and I joke with some of the girls that you've not arrived until you've been a Christmas elf. So, that's how you've made it because they, and a lot of the girls likewise, they do like this, but it's, smaller sounding.
Sure.
But I digress. What was your question?
Just you needed to prepare to get back into Leo at all.
No.
When the reboots came, when the crossovers came recently.
No.
Were those recorded together again, or was that piecemeal?
It was a little piecemeal. Maybe one of us was there with the other one.
Okay.
So the real fun reunion for me, which, even put a tear in my eye, was when Toyota came along and asked us to do their Christmas campaign year before last. Their campaign was, remember how excited you were as a kid and you got your action figures. I don't remember how it's set up. You could probably find it on YouTube. And they stop motion animated our action figures. And they had the 4 of us in to talk about the car, talk about the seats and the gas mileage and everything while these little action figures are jumping around the car. And that was just us. The four of us in the booth, not the New Turtles, nobody else. We weren't at Nickelodeon. We were just at a place, the four of us. And that was like, oh man, remember us? And Rob had to put a gun to my head to start doing conventions because I really didn't want to. And he said, if the four of us got together, people would love it and it would kill. And he's right. I wish I had not pushed so hard against it, and gotten on that, gravy train a few years earlier. But be that as it may, we've had some wonderful weekends together that without conventions, we never would have been spending so much sweet time together.
That's very cool. That's where I met you, actually, was Granite State Con, and I had you sign an animation cell last year in 20...
Granite State is in, where is that? What state is Granite State?
I feel bad now. I think it's New Hampshire. I tried to get around it by saying Granite State. I think it's New Hampshire, but it's one of those New England states. I'm pretty sure. So,
all right.
I really tried to avoid that, but it was cool because I got to, I'd had Rob, because he does tons of conventions. I have 4 animation cells, and I'd had Rob sign one years ago. And I was like, when am I going to, and then you guys did a bunch of events in the West Coast, and I was like, can I spend $1,000 to get these cells? And finally, you came over to the East Coast, and I was very excited about it. So.
Can I make a shameless plug right now?
Please do.
You heard it here first. We are going to be doing a cyber autograph party together. Since this is the new, I am not going to use that expression, new normal. I'm just going to call it what is now. But we're going to be doing a cyber signing so that people can come together with us, whether they're in Melbourne, Manhattan, or Lisbon. And questions, I guess. I mean, I've not done this. I mean, I'm just here to look pretty, so I don't really know all the ins and outs. But I think questions will scroll by. They're not going to be on camera with us, but they can watch us, and we'll be signing on air, so they know these are legit. And so I'm looking forward to that. I'm also going to be doing one with David Hayter, so that the twin snakes from Metal Gear
Cool.
Solid will be together.
When are those? When is the turtle one? Do you know?
We don't have a date for that. I don't know when your podcast is airing. This is airing, but I know David and I are slated. I don't have a calendar in front of me, but are slated a week from this Saturday. And of course, we'll post all kinds of, diddly-do. In fact, some of those bells going off might be the promoter saying, "How about this time?" Cam, where are you? Answer us.
I'll be sure to include that too, because that sounds pretty cool. That's awesome. One of the, I wanted to ask you something.
And we'll also be we'll be doing our safe distance. We'll all be in our own, homes. We won't be together.
Sure.
We'll be elsewhere.
Well, going back to Rocksteady, I forgot about one thing I wanted to ask you. In the reboot or the recent episodes where he cameos really quickly, Rocksteady reveals that he wanted to be a personal injury attorney. I don't know if you remember that.
No, but that's pretty funny.
Which surprised me.
I could just see him in one of those commercials or on one of the sides of the bus that it says, "Rocksteady got me $4 million. Ask me how."
Exactly. And now this says this on your IMDb page, but I know those notoriously wrong sometimes. Were you a California raisin?
And that would be one of the right times.
Okay, cool, good. And what was your character's name?
Bebop. I was the Michael Jackson of the group. And I can't get as high as Michael right now, but there were 4 of us. Jim Cummings, me, Brian Mitchell, who is now Brian Stokes Mitchell, who became a massive Broadway star. And I think he was also on Trapper John. Okay. And Dorian Harewood.
So you have played both, in a way, Bebop and Rocksteady.
Ha! That's right.
Which I never realized until I was pulling this up, and I was like, I wonder if that one's correct.
Yeah, that is a truth. That is a truth. And I've worked, with some of my idols and stuff, which is just so great. Show up one day and the guest is someone that you've been a big fan of, and they're sitting right next to you in a chair. So,
oh, cool. Any in particular you wanted that come to mind?
Okay, anyone under the age who's not between the ages of 60 and death would
Sure.
Have not heard of them, but you could certainly check them out. Two ladies that come to mind in particular was Eleanor Donahue. She was a regular with me on Eek the Cat.
Okay.
I don't know if you recall that show.
I do.
She played the mother. Eleanor Donahue was on a huge hit in the 50s called Father Knows Best.
Oh, yeah.
She was the eldest daughter. And
cool.
to have her walk in and sit next to me, I was like, I am so not worthy. And the other one is Susan Tolsky, who I worked a lot with. She was on a series that, as a kid, you think the shows you love were on forever, and then you look it up and it was 2 seasons. You went, wait, didn't I watch this forever?
Yeah.
But it wasn't. There was a show called Here Come the Brides. And she was a regular character. Her name was Biddy. And she was on that. And it was like, you can keep your Tom Cruise and, Sylvester Stallone to meet these little character actors who were in my living room.
Sure.
I was just like, I was, going to pass out.
I get it though. Like I'm not.
And Eleanor was also in Coach, which is probably closer to your generation. She played the girlfriend of the lead guy.
I know Coach, yeah, for sure. I get it though. Like I know for me, like I'm not an autograph person. I can give a shit about any of that, but I made sure I went out of my way to get all 4 Turtle autographs. Like that stuff really mattered to me, and it's like that's whoever you connect with. So I get it totally.
Well, there's two other actors that are really like intimate friends of mine. And I have a small bathroom off the kitchen. It's my, powder room. And I have all kinds, it's just wall to wall photos, like an Italian restaurant, where they just got all the professional pictures in there. And even if you're my best friend, you have autographed a picture for me if you were from a show that I loved. One is David Jolliffe, who was one of the leads in a show called Room 222. And the other is a woman whose stage name was Heather Young, who was on a show called Land of the Giants.
Oh, cool.
And I had her lunchbox. The show had a lunchbox. And we met doing a musical, a stage touring musical together. And I went, Are you the stewardess? You're from Land of the Giants. Ah! And for 40 years, we've been best friends. And I see her every year. We go on a trip together. I go visit her and we go hiking and go for drives and stuff. And it's just, those are the people
that's awesome.
And their autograph is to Cam,
Sure,
on my wall. And then Erin Murphy is a dear friend of mine who played Tabitha on Bewitched.
Oh, okay.
And her picture is up on my wall, in this bathroom.
That's cool.
And it just tickles me.
I'm curious, does any weird piece of or Turtle nostalgia, signed or not, sit in your home anywhere?
Weird turtle? Oh, I do have
normal, not weird.
Okay. Yeah, because you go, what is it called? Level 7? I don't know if they still call it that. Do you know what that is?
I don't know.
I may have the name wrong, but when you go to images of whatever, like turtles or Donald Duck or whoever, you scroll deep enough, guess what you find?
Keep going. Tell me.
Turtle porn.
Oh, yeah. No, I know.
Yeah. So it's like, oh my God, scroll back up.
I don't mean that weird.
My eyes.
I meant more obscure. Maybe that's
No, I have a wall. I collect mid-century toys. And my music room, which has my grand piano, also has my collection of toys. And on one wall, I have cells from all the series that I did, where I had a regular, where I had was a regular member of the cast. And I have this wonderful wall, that's like my diplomas.
Sure.
And there's a turtle picture hanging right in the center of Leo.
What does it look like?
And there's also one of Rocksteady holding April.
Oh, very cool. Those animation cells, I mean, they're not worth a whole ton, but I mean, I just think it's such a cool because
no, they flooded the market with them when we went out. Fred Wolf, our producer, may he rest in hell. I mean, peace. He, flooded the market with all these cells, so they have no street value.
Which I'm grateful for because they were cheap for me, so that's fine.
Yeah, great.
But I mean, it's such a cool thing to have because it's such a lost artwork now. So everything's done on a computer.
Well, and I had some that I had done special for me on shows. So they are one of a kind cells from other shows, and other shows I was able to dig through the garbage and take a cell of this or that or the other, and it's framed on the wall.
Very cool. Usually I ask people at the end of these things who their favorite turtle is, but with voice actors it never seems to make sense. I'm guessing your favorite turtle is Leo, of course.
Michelangelo.
Is it really? Okay, this is exciting.
Well, I told you that already. I know,
but still, now it's official. So
yeah, you heard it here first, folks.
Is it because he's just a lot more fun? Is that why?
Yeah.
Does he more resemble you?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm hardly the straight man in more than one way. I'm much more a goofy big kid, and so I it's easier for me to it's closer to me than to be Leo. And yet I love the fan mail that I get and how kids interpret their relationship with Leo and being the leader and stuff like that. So I am grateful to be a part of it. But given my druthers, it's like I don't wish I was Donatello because I certainly am no brain. And I don't wish I was Raph because I'm not a wiseacre. And Rob is Donatello. That's him. And also Barry is a brainiac. So it's, they were kind of, the attitude is pretty much who they are.
Last one I'll ask is, did you have a favorite catchphrase of Leonardo? One that actually sticks with you that you still love to throw out at fans?
We got to think of something fast.
That memorable catchphrase, I see.
Yeah. We got to think of something fast. In fact, at all the conventions, it's kind of like just a corny, stale joke when people because people often ask that, and everybody looks at me and goes, "Cam, what's your favorite line?" And then we all say it together or whatever. But it's just because it's like being the professor on Gilligan's Island.
Okay.
It's everybody else is doing loop-de-loops around him. Even Mary Ann is playing this goody two-shoes.
Yeah.
And he's just fixing the radio all the time.
Turtle power out of you? Because I was hoping that would be the answer, but I guess that's probably more true.
All right. All right. On the count of three, and you folks out there in podcast land, you say it with me, Kay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Turtle power! Turtles fight with honor. That's my other catchphrase.
Thank you, Cam. Honestly, this is perfect, and I appreciate talking to you so much. Thank you so much.
You betcha, man. Good interview. Good leads.
Hey, get a grip. When the evil shredder attacks, these turtle boys don't cut them no slack. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Splinter taught them to be ninja teens.
He's a radical rat.
Leonardo leads machine.
That's a fact, Jack.
Raphael is cool, but Bruce